One.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday Nights at 9 with Coach Glenda and Mr. Carpenter. I am so glad that you are here tonight. I'm so excited about our topic. Actually, this topic we had to circle back because we had a request from one of our participants that we needed to really dive a little deeper into our previous topic, which was, yes, it's true, children are affected by our relationships. So, I want you to know that when you send us requests to the email address, we do listen and we don't have a problem circling back or creating a topic discussion for upcoming Sunday nights at 9. So I won't say who suggested that we circle back to this topic, but I want you to know that I appreciate the time and effort that you put in by making the request via email, and I wanted you to know that you were heard. And we have some additional feedback and comments that we want to address tonight in regards to that topic. But before we dive in a little deeper, I want Mr. Carpenter to introduce himself tonight.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rufus Carpenter. I come to this space a little different than most. My background in the relationship started as a child in a large family, a family of 14 kids and 2 adults, 16 people in a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom house. And if you know what it is, have that many people trying to use one bathroom, and oh, by the way, if you sleep with 4 of your siblings and one is an occasional bedwetter, you learn a thing about human connection. Married 27 years to the same, had married 27 years to the same woman that married that long. I learned about communication. I learned about trust. I learned about compromise, and I learned about respect. And that's something that really helps you with the connection and help your relationships. But my story didn't stop there. I went into the United States Army, and one of my positions in the United States Army was the race relation and human relationship leader, where I had the responsibility of going to any relationship or race problem we had within our unit, and I'd be the first person on the scene. I would do what's called an intake form, and from the intake form, I would decide what level of leadership or what resources we had to put to solving that relationship problem. So my background is very diverse in the field of relationships. So I feel very comfortable tonight being the other half of this conversation. And once again, I will definitely represent the male perspective, trust me. And we're glad to have you here because this wouldn't be a show without you. The audience really make this show. The reason why we came up with Sunday Night at 9, because there's so much that's not done in the African American community to help people. And we found out that a lot of times churches don't talk about money and relationships. And that's a place where we have our biggest messes in that money and relationships. They don't teach it in school. And some parents don't even teach their children about money and relationships. So we found out there was a shortcoming, there was a gap, and we came to fill that gap. Glenda, I appreciate what you're doing and how you're reaching people and how you're sharing your story. And your story is being the backdrop of what we do here Sunday night at 9. The framework is where you and like 20 of your girlfriends are in your living room, and you're sharing a glass of wine or whatever you drink, or it could be tea or orange juice, whatever you do. You relax, no issues, and you're just talking your truth. And you normally talk about one subject, but you have the ability to talk about a lot of relationship subjects. And I'm a guy, and normally we have a few guys on this call. So this is a safe place where men and women can talk about the same subject. And you can really speak your truth. All right, Glenda, let me turn it back over to you.
Okay, well, thank you. As I stated, we had to circle back to this topic. Yes, it's true. Children are affected by their parents' relationship. The last time we talked about this, talked on this topic, it brought light to several key points, but left the room for deeper exploration. We aim to address these points, providing strategy for hopeful success, and more importantly, to support and empower Black women in navigating these challenges. So we want to kick off or start off with understanding the impact on children when you're dating, when you're in a relationship. Um, and I want to, for clarification, Mr. Carpenter, we are talking about what type of families. This is blended and, married and unmarried relationships. Is that correct?
All the above, because
All the above.
they come in
Okay.
all shapes and sizes.
All
You
right.
even have bonus children, you have adopted children, you have special guests that never leave your house children. We talk about all types here because
Okay.
they're youth and they're in your house, and you have the responsibility of rearing them, or responsibility of their safety, or you're a caretaker for any children. It's very important that you realize the impact of your relationship with your partner or spouse has on those children. So we don't address it all right now.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for the clarification. So
Okay.
understanding the impact on children. So when you think about the impact that your relationship has on children, what comes to mind? What have anyone can speak. What comes to mind when you think of how you have noticed your children change when you start a new relationship or when you get married and the children aren't your spouse's children? What have you witnessed? Have you witnessed anything that, is unusual? Was your children receptive and, you know, cooperative? I know that for myself, when me and my ex-husband divorced, my kids didn't want me to date anybody. I was like, but your dad is married to, well, that's just my dad, but you're my mom. You can't date anybody. They will always try to block any relationship that I was in. So it got to the point where I wouldn't even bring anybody around them. When it was their dad's weekend, that's what I would go on dates because the children wasn't receptive because they could only see mom and dad. They couldn't see, mom with someone new. But they adjusted well to their father dating and being married to someone else. So does anyone have any feedback in regards to having children and bringing someone different into their life, a stepfather, stepmother?
Into the second time this is happening in just 2.
It's someone, okay, if you're not talking, mute your mic, please, or help us out, because we want everybody to have an open line to be able to say what you want to say. Glenda brought on a great point. And matter of fact, she brought a couple points out. Let's deal with it one at a time. She dealt on a point with when you start dating again, it's a separation, whether it's a separation, whether it's a divorce, or whatever the situation being that you and your partner separated or split, and one is raising the kids in their house and others not. What she's asking of you is, when you begin to date again, how does that impact your children? And the good thing about it is a lot of us on this line know a lot about it because we've been on both sides of the equation. We've been a child that our parent that divorced brought somebody around us, and then we've been a parent where we brought somebody around our new children. I mean, somebody new around our children. So we know both sides of this equation. And it's very important we talk about it right now because sometimes the kids go unnoticed. I've seen places where the kids were just told, shut up, sit down.
Right, stay in a child's place.
Right, with a new person that came on, you brought them in, they were acting like the kids were theirs and they were telling the kids to shut up. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what's wrong, what's right with that situation. Who on this line wants to give us some type of input on how that should be happening? It could be a recent divorce, a separation, or it could be a long-term separation where you've been separated for a while and you decide, I want to get back out there. Have anyone considered how this would affect the children?
This is Annette.
Go ahead, Annette.
Hey, I've been in a situation before where I've had this happen with trying to incorporate another person into my relationship as a single parent. And actually, if I'm looking at it today, which was been years and years ago, I should have done it differently. I wish I had maybe this type of type of coaching to go through at that time, because I'm certain I would have made a different choice. But I couldn't deal with that person trying to discipline my child. My child could have been wrong and maybe truly needed the discipline of that person that would been coming into the relationship, but I couldn't deal with that. I saw that my child looked like the child just shut down per se, not to even say, well, they were going to accept this, or they were going to say, oh, I didn't do this, or don't talk to me like that, or anything. It's just that I saw that my child shut down and I couldn't deal with it. I didn't have the understanding of, hey, maybe this person could be the right person. You just need to be able to handle the situation in a certain way. I just walked away from the situation because of the relationship, the potential relationship, because I said I had to deal with me. And I couldn't deal with this other person not being the biological father to this child to deal with them. So I think my thing was watching my child just shut down was an issue.
Let's put the kickstand down there a little bit. Let's stay right in that area for a minute. Go ahead, Glenda.
And that question,
Yeah.
so you let the relationship go because your child shut down.
Yes.
Okay.
I couldn't, my child shut down, and I saw the individual that I was pursuing and was interested in, I saw them differently than I had ever seen them before, because they had to deal with me before, but now I'm bringing my child in the situation and I saw them differently. I didn't see them like I wanted them to be.
Can I piggyback on that?
Go ahead, Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon. I'm Annette's sister. You
You didn't
know,
have to say that, Sharon. You could have just said what you had to say.
okay, Annette. I was gonna use you as a point.
We
I
all
was gonna,
family. We all family.
I was gonna use her as the point. That's maybe where I picked that up from, because in my relationships, when my kids was little, they grown now. I was the same way. I was the same way. You can't say nothing to my kids, or it's going to be a problem. So I noticed my children took the attitude towards that individual on the basis of how I treated that person. Like if I was mad at them or something like that, my kids took their disrespectful attitude or whatever. So maybe I did pick that up from Annette.
Here we go.
That's all I had to say.
Okay.
Let's see. You want to tackle it first, Glenda? You want me to get out there with that
You
one?
go ahead. You can go
Okay,
ahead.
let's stay there for a little bit, because two things affected here. One, the adult decision to bring the person in, and that means that the adult that brought the person have to make a decision. Is this how are you going to either keep the relationship going with that person you have a partnership with, or release that person out of the relationship and look for welfare of your children? Or the welfare of your children is such that you have to understand, how do you bridge that gap between bringing somebody new into your children's life, where they can accept that. So how do we handle that? What is the best way? Let's talk about how do we handle that. Do we separate both of them out and handle them both as separate entities, or do we handle them as one entity?
I have something to say.
Please say it.
When my children were young, I made it a point not to let them see anyone that I was dating unless we were going to the next level in our relationship. He never lived with me or anything like that. But if I had one to come in and they perhaps saw my children and they went and spoke to them, I knew then that person I didn't need to deal with, because he was doing the wrong thing off the top. But with my children, they were in bed at 8 o'clock every night. They never saw anybody. And later on, my uncles and my dad and all the men in the family had to talk to the boys to get them to understand, okay, you have nothing to do with who mom talks to. That's none of your business. But then also, I vetted the men that I dated very carefully, very, very carefully, because of the world that we're living in now. They'll come in one way and then turn out to be something else.
Right.
And one other thing, I did date a guy, and he was, he was back and forth, and we were going to the next level, and the grass needed cutting. And my baby boy was still here with me. And he come in the house and he said, "Oh my God, your son sprayed weed killer on the grass." And I told him, I said, "Well, I know he didn't go out there and spray weed killer on the grass, because at any given day, he doesn't even want to cut the grass. So I know he didn't have time to spend out there. So that person, I cut loose right then and there, because you're a liar. You lied on my son, and you can't be trusted. You'll do anything."
Right.
So I guess you're at I guess you're answering the question I asked earlier. Are the two separate entities? Do you deal with the partner, the new partner you're bringing into your life, separately from the child, or you deal with them both as one issue? So I think what you said, Glenda, was it Gigi? I think what you said, Gigi, is that you separate the guy out. First, you made a decision, you vetted the guy first before you even brought him to your house, and you kept him out of the sight of your children. And then when you decide you're going to the next level, you brought him to your children, but you still kept an eye on him, and you kind of eased him in, or gradually brought him into your kid's life. Is that what
Right.
you're saying?
Right. You're right.
Okay. Okay. So I guess that, to me, that was a great way of doing it, because you got to realize something. The children should matter in any relationship.
Absolutely.
Your children, it's an adult situation. Yes, you make the decision on who you date and who you don't date, but your children do have input. They should matter. It should matter. And I'm glad you're able to, Gigi, I'm glad you was able to weed that one person out really fast that was lying on your son, because you're right, that would have been an issue, because that would have really destroyed your son's self-confidence. And it, because who do you believe? Mom, do you believe your child, or do you believe the lying boyfriend or lying girlfriend? Who do you believe?
Right.
Because I've heard relationships where people have taken their girlfriend or boyfriend's word over their own children's word,
Right.
and the child really shut down. So I'm sorry, Glenn, I didn't mean to get off on that chase that rabbit, but this is something I know a lot about. So it's kind of hard for me to stay sitting here, because I've been on both sides of the fence on this one.
Yes, I can tell, and you're probably not the only one. I think I know that as for myself, that my dating history with my children after my marriage, they were all bad. My children wasn't receptive. I mean, they wasn't even behaving well with me. So even though I tried to date, regardless, so at what point I brought the new person into their life, they was all around rude and disrespectful. I dealt with that throughout my whole dating history until the children went and stayed with their father. So I mean, I really, when I think who was it? Somebody just said that, was it Sharon said that she wish she had this this coaching.
And it said it.
And that, okay, and that, okay, and that. What she had mentioned, she wished she had this coaching and, had what we're offering now. She wished she had the education about, that she's receiving now back then. She probably would have handled the situation differently. But, when we start having kids, we're not given a manual on how to handle every situation. A lot of stuff is you learn by trial and error. So, I mean, because in the scenarios and examples that the ladies have presented tonight, is like, wow, they pretty much had it easy. I caught heck throughout the whole dating season after my divorce. My boys just could not see whether they were good men or bad men. They lashed out. They took it out on me. They would lie on the men. And I'm like, no, I know that's not true. I know, because I know my children, they really were, They just wanted to see their mom and dad together. They didn't want to see me with anybody. My oldest son, he acted like he was my man. I said, you better go on somewhere and learn how to pay some bills, because you're not running nothing over here. And we always was at each other's throat, fussing and arguing, because he could not see mama with anybody else besides his dad. But his dad was married. So I had asked my ex-husband, I said, does your does the oldest boy give you trouble with your new wife? And he was like, no, I tell him go somewhere and sit down. I was like, oh, okay, because I'm catching it over here. He's like, well, you should, because he was selfish too. He didn't want me to move on. But at the same time, I can, I wish my scenario, my example, or my experience was like the ladies that have spoken tonight, but I caught it. And I didn't have any education or training or coaching on how to handle the situation. I did the best that I could with what I had. And no matter if I told the children, you need to stay in a child's place, it didn't help.
Let's
Yeah,
have,
to see,
Go ahead.
who's that
you
speaking?
need to also, this is
Angela.
Andy.
Right, Angela.
Mhm. You need to also look at the man and what his relationship is and how he treat his children.
Right,
Even if you haven't met them, you talk to him about his kids
right.
and see how their relationships are.
Okay.
So that's a
That was
That's a
a
good
good,
one.
that
That's
was
a
a
good
good
one.
point.
Yeah,
right.
that is.
Because
That
if
really
he,
is.
Yeah.
Okay.
because by all means, we are to protect our seed.
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
And I made the choice not to date until my daughter got grown and and in college. And then but that was a choice that I made, and then I still didn't date. But I don't know, that's just, you got to protect the babies, because if you don't, who's going to?
Right. Right.
Because I knew that, for instance, and I knew that I used to tell God, some things I know I'm going to go to jail for. If I had someone that made a pass or violated my daughter, I would kill him.
Right,
I
correct.
knew that. So I said, don't put yourself in that predicament. Because sometimes some parents watch some of these things happen. And the more I worked in education, and around children, and I found out that a lot of kids were violated. So
Right.
it's not on my watch.
What just came out? We've got 4 topics on the board here. We've got 3 of them from the chat, and one of them, and I'm just going to tell you what they are, but we're not going to go to them yet. Got 3 on the chat. One is don't date women with children. The other is when you're dating someone the same age as your child, and the other one when the mom and the daughter fight for the same man. And then the last one is how does it look when the men bring women around the children? The vice versa of what it is when Glenda, when you brought a man around a child, how is it viewed when a man bring a woman around a child? And you said with your husband, it didn't make no difference there. He told him sit down. But let's talk about that too. So let's first talk about the man side of this first. The man side of it. Have you noticed that the men get a pass, or the men get it easier, or men when they bring a woman around the children, it's a better transition than when a woman brings a man around the kids?
Yeah.
How somebody share their thoughts on that, other than Glenda. Can
Well, this
someone
is
share?
Annette again.
Go ahead,
This
Annette.
is Annette again. I've been in that situation too, um, um, as a child. And I'm speaking at myself in that point. And I disliked it. I disliked it because I felt like it was a violation of my mother when I was a kid in that situation. So and I think as far as it was happened with my dad, and I think as far as he was concerned, he he didn't really know how to address me, but he didn't want to lose his woman. So
Right.
he was trying to care more for her, but he still didn't address me. It was just a matter of me just walking away from it altogether. But I was never really addressed because I knew that he didn't know how to address it. So that's my part.
So I guess Annette brought a point that no matter whether it's a man bringing a woman into a relationship or a woman bringing a man into a relationship, the children don't like it. No way. No matter how it's done, children don't like it. Children want that nuclear, the mom and dad they were first bonding with to stay together. Now, Annette, one thing I said when you said you moved on from that, did that make you feel any kind of way towards your dad? Did you have remorse to your dad, or did it? How did it affect you as a child?
Temporarily, it did. Temporarily, it made me rebel. I rebelled against anything he said to me, whatever he said to me, and even if it was right or wrong, right, I tried to go against it. I felt like I'm not going to give you what you want. You doing what you're doing. I don't care. That was my perspective. However, late in life, when I began to understand that I was too young to make any type of judgment because I didn't know man-woman relationships. I didn't know that kind of stuff.
Right.
But when I got older and began to realize, I felt bad inside because I felt like it wasn't my place to do that. But that was
Oh,
coming over with knowledge later. But as a
right.
kid, as a young kid, I didn't see it that way.
Okay, good. Anybody
Mhm.
else want to add to what Annette said? Anyone else want to add to what Annette said before we move further? Okay.
Yes, I want to
Go
add,
ahead.
as a child, um, my mother and father, I never known them to live together. They were separated before I was even old enough to know. My
Mhm.
father, he rented a room from my grandmother, which was my mother. But my mother was living with a man, and I respected him because he treated me, my sister, and brother just like we were his own children.
Right.
But when it came to my father seeing someone else, I didn't like it. Even though the woman that he was seeing, she was nice, she treated me nice, and I respected her. But when it came to my father, I couldn't see it. But on the other hand, as far as my mother, that didn't faze me. And I don't know whether it was because, yeah, I was considered the daddy's girl, but as far as my father, no, I didn't want to see, I just couldn't accept him being with somebody else, but I respected the relationship.
Okay.
Now, I was 28. This kind of happened with me. My daddy was living with the lady, and I went over to tell him, listen, I'm getting married, and I need you to go and get fitted for your tux. They're going to be gray. I was kind of daddy's girl. And he said, okay, and I told him where to go. And then the lady started talking. I says, I'm talking to him. She said, oh, no, I just wanted to give you some silverware. And I told her, no, thank you. I don't want your silverware. And by the way, you're not invited to the wedding.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Now, I was 28 and I did get married. And that marriage, so mom and dad was in the wedding. And somewhere between the wedding and afterward, they wind up getting back together after years of separation. Because my father always said, I'm never going to divorce you. Never. And so I was 28 and they got back together and he lived 1 year. He died at 48.
Can I ask you a question?
You can.
Okay, hindsight now, going back when you were 28, because you're not 28 right now, apparently. So you're much older than 28 right now. Going
Mm-hmm.
back over that, Do you regret that decision that you made then, or would you, if you had to make the decision today with what you know today and the life you've lived up to this point, would you make that same decision you made at 28?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because what people do don't just affect them, it affect the children. Now, this lady had a son that was in that really liked and wanted to date one of my younger sisters. And then one of the lady's daughters was good friends with another one of my sisters. So this cohabitating between them did not just affect them, but it affected the children. Her son was furious when he found out. And it just ruined those relationships. So what you do, what parents do, always affects the children. And seem like society have made it like only the white kids suffer from divorce. But every child, I don't care of your ethnicity, it affects them in some way or another.
We have talked a lot about the problem with all this. Now let's talk about some of the solutions, because how do we protect our children in this? What do we do, or how do we do this? How do we protect our children in this? Now, Gigi said that she didn't date until her kids were older, so she kind of put dating off.
No, I think that was Angela.
No, Gigi said that she waited. I'm going to talk about Angela too, but Gigi said that, and then Angela said the same thing, and Glenda said that you went and dated. You just waited till your children were asleep a little bit, I think is what you said, and you brought them in that way. So how can we solve this? How can we make it where the kids become priority, or we can make it where it's less trauma on our kids? What are some suggestions? What are some things that we can do? How can we protect the kids? Andre just said it's complicated.
It is.
Even though it's complicated, how do we do this? Because
I feel like,
go ahead.
I always said, when the children come on the scene, they didn't ask to come here.
Mm-hmm.
You pull them to the forefront of the burner and you take the back burner. It's about the children, another generation.
Okay, can I say something?
Yeah.
Go ahead. That's
I have an opinion. I can have like a little opinion about that. Okay, I know what you guys are saying and everything, but are we giving our children? I mean, of course, you're not gonna let nobody come in and abuse your child or be disrespectful. But are we giving the kids maybe a little bit too much authority on that choice now? Let's get it real.
I don't.
I mean,
Well, I'll let somebody talk before I say something. I'm sorry. I apologize. Somebody else want to address that with Sharon?
I don't think so.
Go ahead, Gigi. Go ahead.
We're not really giving them too much authority over the relationship, but in the next thing is that you just have to be careful, because there are so many horror stories. When my parents divorced, I was raised by my stepfather. My stepfather took care of us. He was there for everything. I mean, he didn't miss a beat. I don't have a horror story, but there are so many ladies that do. When it comes to vetting a man in a relationship with your children, you have to really just sit back and not so much give them authority, but you've got to pay attention to the relationship between the child and the man that you're bringing into their life. That's why I said I never brought a man into my children's life unless we were getting ready to get really, really serious or get engaged. Other than that, they never saw anybody.
No, I'm not talking about any situations like that. I'm talking about as far as a child being able to make the decision, or just based on just a kind of kids not being in kids' places. That's what I mean.
Well, I think it's a teaching moment because those children are going to grow up. So it's an opportunity for the parent to also teach the children. I put you first. And so as you mature and get into relationships, just like I put you first, your children come first.
I
Always.
think this is Annette. I think a good thing would be for me if I was going to had to do it all over again. I think a good thing would be to first truly have an in-depth conversation with the partner, 100%, and put
Yeah.
all my what ifs and all my what I can't stand and find out what that person is dealing with and how that person would perceive it and how it would happen. And once we get an understanding, if we can agree, then I would talk separately, I think, with my child to let my child know what I'm intending to do. And I'm getting ready to invite this person into our lives. And I want us to be able to be together. Then I could watch us all together. But I think first I would just talk to that adult.
What kind of timeline would happen between the time you talk to the adult and the time you introduce that adult to your child? Are we talking about weeks, months, days?
No, I'm talking about immediately, because at that point I would be thinking, hey, I want this person to be more with us, and I would make it immediate. I wouldn't waste time.
I waited to before I let my children saw him, simply because I wanted to see how this man treated the women in his family. I wanted to know whether or not this man would respect me as a woman. I just needed to know that, because if not, then I felt like he wouldn't respect me if he didn't respect the women in his family, especially if he didn't respect his mother.
Okay.
Right. His mother and his children. What kind of relationship he have with his children?
Right.
Because
That
9
can,
times out of 10, he have some.
that can go two different ways, because I know a guy that thinks the world of his mother, sister, and his children, and treats his girlfriend like a side piece. He doesn't give her a second thought. She's always on the back burner. So I know men like that. So that can go either way.
She needs to dismiss him.
I'll let her know. I would let her know.
Any additional insight on how we can protect the children, or at least make the transition for the children a little better? Any additional thoughts or comments?
Yes, I would like to make a comment. And talking to the children, you know, back when I was young, my mother had a conversation with me. If somebody trying to touch you or whatever in a different area other than where they needed your arm or whatever, then you need to say something. But if it happens to the child, sometimes the child get threatened. If you tell somebody, I'm going to do such and such to you, or a family member. But it's really deep conversation to have with a child, to let them know no matter what. And then it comes back to the parents having a relationship with the child. The child should be able to talk to the parent about anything.
Right.
So if anything out the ordinary happened, the child should be able to go to that parent to say, such and such happened to me, and this is what they said.
Okay. All right. Anyone else want any comments on what's best for the children? How we can make sure that the children are whole in this? Anyone else comments before we move on? Okay, Glenda said in the comments that she tried counseling, and didn't work. I tried counseling for my child and the relationship, and it did work. So counseling, it all depends on all situations. Okay. So we suggest that if you can't figure it out, seek counseling, some type of counseling, because you want to put all your resources to bear to protect your children. Because someone said earlier that the relationship goes on the back burner and the child goes on the front burner. Child comes first because the child can't protect themselves. It's your responsibility to protect that child. Yes, the child don't dictate. It's an adult decision that makes the relationship. You as an adult determine who you're going to spend your life with and your relationships. The child don't dictate, but you got to realize everything's affect your children. And how you want it going forward, because your kids do get grown and they come back, Mom, Dad, let me tell you this. So thanks on that. Now, a lot of things are in the chat. Andre, what are you talking about Beyonce's brother? You did that about 3-4 times. Come on board and tell us what you're telling us about Beyonce's brother.
Well, Beyonce's father had a son out of wedlock. And
I didn't know that.
was the reason for the divorce between her mother. Well, Beyonce's brother has never met Beyonce, and she will not have a relationship with him. And I just say, imagine the self-esteem issues he may be having, because I think he's maybe 10 now. So I say, imagine the self-esteem issues that may have caused. And so when we say, how do you help the children? I'm like, that's kind of complicated, because how do you tell her to go have a relationship with her stepbrother when she don't like the situation at all, and she's an adult?
Okay, now that we just listened to that, we're not gonna comment on that. We're just listening to that. We're not commenting, guys. We're just listening. we listen to that, letting that soak in and go through. Okay, thanks for sharing that, Andre. Now, Andre, you had a couple more things you want to talk about. If all hearts are clear about the understanding impact on the kids, you said that you don't date somebody with a children. Is that a fair assessment?
For me, yes. And the reason being, because I'm in education, I'm trained to just put kids first, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very difficult to turn that off. So when I'm around someone and I put the children first, when I break up with the female, now these children think I'm the father. And I'm like, whoa, go back over there to Raekwon, whoever your daddy is now, because I'm not with your mom and them. And it's difficult when I've helped you and kind of became that father figure, just because it's just natural to me as an educator. Mm-hmm. So I just choose not to date anyone with children at all.
Okay. And you choose a date because first you're educated, put kids first, and second because you've tried it and it didn't work. And that's what you're saying?
Well, it didn't work for me because, again, when the relationship is over, the children don't want to let you go. And you're looking at these kids' faces like, no, you have to let me go because I'm gone.
Correct. Okay. All right. Got that.
They're attached to you.
Correct. Very much so.
And I found that out too. Kids do get attached. And that attachment is so strong and it lasts for years and years. Because now I go to college graduations of kids that I knew them when their mom were their little boys and little girls with the mom. And they're sending me things come to their college graduations. So kids do get attached. So if you treat them right, they do get attached. So that's awesome. So thank you for that. And someone said you had another comment in there when your partner, or significant other, is the same age as your child.
Yeah, I was taken back by that one.
Someone
Well, believe it or not, that is very common, especially when people saying cougars. Your cougar partner might be your child's age, kind of like how Stella got her groove back. Everybody thought that was funny until we start realizing that your son and your boyfriend is 20.
Okay, how do you talk to that one? How do you talk to that one? Someone want to speak to that? You want to speak to that, Glenda?
No, I want the audience to talk.
Okay, audience, talk to that one. Okay, Dr. Johnson, I see you smiling and shaking your head.
I'm clutching my pearls.
But I tell you what, there's probably a lot of cougars out there today, so I don't want to comment.
Oh man!
Well, can I say something?
Huh? Who's that?
Okay, this Sharon again.
Okay, Sharon. Go ahead, Sharon.
Okay, yeah. Now I don't see the sense in that. how are you gonna date somebody your child age? Is that person mature enough to even be on your level?
Well, look at Cher when she dated that young boy who was younger than her child or her son's daughter. You know, she dated that young person, that young guy, and she was
Yeah.
twice his age.
Well, okay, twice his age is one thing, but I'm not gonna date somebody on the same age as my child. Now that's ridiculous. That's just my opinion.
It does happen a lot, and
I mean,
what
it
I
does
indicated,
happen, but I'm with Sharon. I can't see that.
well, I'm currently seeing a situation now in court where the child and the mother are fighting over the same man, and
Yeah, that
nobody
is
wants to let him
crazy.
go.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
That's ludicrous.
that's
They need some serious counseling.
now some of this stuff is mental health. It's not relationship, it's mental health. So
Right.
when it's a little off, I think we need to just refer them to mental health people. Because some stuff as Glenn and I are relationship coaches, we're not relationship counselors. We don't have a degree in that we can do that. And our thing is that our job basically is to get you from where you are right now to where you want to go. We're not going to go back into your path and see what triggered this. We're not going to say when you were 5 years old and your dad didn't give you candy, you don't like men. We're not going to go that route. We're going to go is where are you today and where you want to go. We're going to be your accountability partners to take you there. That's what we are. So with the same age mom and boyfriend and we're not going to mess with that. We're going to refer that out. Okay. All right, moving right along. All right, Glenda, go ahead, because I think you've done the impact on children enough. Do you want to say something, Gigi, before she go?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I thought your mic came on. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Glenda.
Okay, so one of the next points were navigating single parenthood and new relationships. And it sounds like we did touch a little bit on this during the session. As a single parent, the decision to introduce a new partner to your child is significant. The pros might include emotional support and shared responsibilities, while the cons could involve resistance from the child or a complicated blending of family dynamics. The key is to introduce new partners gradually, allowing your child to adjust at their own pace and ensuring your partners respect this process. So as I stated, it sounds like since we've been on tonight, we have touched actually both topics, the impact as well as navigating single parenthood and in new relationships. So I think we have some good ideas on that. Does anyone have anything they want to add towards that? Sharon, your light is on. Did you want to say anything?
Oh no, no. I'm sorry, I didn't realize it.
It's okay. It's okay. When the light pops up, we just think that someone wants to say something. It's okay. All right. So if no one has anything they want to comment on that strategy, the next one is valuing children's perspective in partnering relationships. Children's perspective should matter, but they shouldn't dictate the entirety of the adult's relationships. Balance is key. Listen to your child's concerns, but always evaluate their reasons. Are they rooted in fear of change, or are they genuine? Actionable concerns. Validate their emotions while making it clear that adults make the final decision. I think we talked on that a little bit.
I think you gave an example when you said your kids didn't want you to date because I think there was more change. They didn't want to change. They wanted you and your ex to still be together. So theirs was changed. So that's a prime example of change. So I think we covered. Any questions about that part about and I think Sharon said that as an adult, she wasn't gonna let her children dictate.
Correct.
Any other questions? Any other concerns about that one before we move on? All right, go ahead, Glenn.
All right, and then creating a healthy relationship models for your children. Model the behaviors and relationship dynamics you hope your children would emulate. Be honest about challenges and demonstrate constructive ways to handle disagreements, showcasing respect, love, and mutual understanding.
Now that represents a review from the first topic we did on this. That first Sunday night we did on children. That refers back to that, because a lot of times your relationship goes as your children. If in a relationship, if you're happy in a relationship, your children are happy in a relationship.
Right.
If you're miserable in a relationship, your children are miserable in a relationship.
Right.
So you have to kind of like set the tempo. You have to, if you let your boyfriend or girlfriend beat you down and your children see that, then it's an issue. That was a problem I had when I was a child coming up. My mother and father didn't have a great relationship. It was dysfunctional. So my thoughts of love, I never saw my mother and father hug or kiss. Never. And that kind of gave me the idea that you just say you love somebody, you don't show it. Love is not shown. Love is just say I love you and that's it. Right. So that relationship I got from my parents went on a long time in my life. I didn't think I'd started showing affection until I got in my 30s. So it really affects you. Anyone else notice that? Other than me?
No, yes,
Yeah, can I say something?
yes.
Okay, I agree with what Rufus just said, and that just made me think. That is true. Because I mean, I wasn't raised by my parents, but but the family members, and I don't think I never really seen them ever hug and kiss and say I love you. I didn't get into that until about my 30s also.
Oh.
Yes, I would agree too, because my mother and father never lived together in the same household, so I never saw the affection of them as being husband and wife. Even the stepfather and my mother, I never saw it. So for me, I mean, in relationships, I guess I never showed it in a way that it should have been showed, because I never seen it. Never, one no experience before me to show me.
Okay.
I even got to the point where I talk myself out of telling somebody I love them. I could be one to love somebody, want to tell them I love them, but I won't let myself say it. And that's really, and I be saying, why is it a hang up? Why is it a problem? And it's deeply rooted from my childhood. Or pick a fight to avoid from saying it. Yep. Andre just said that in the chat. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about how do you show you love now? How do we express our love in a relationship? How do we show our children that we love our mate or our partner or significant others? How do we show that? And what do we want our kids to emulate of that? Somebody from the audience share. How do you want your children to see you love your partner or express emotion or express the feelings?
By doing the things that we didn't see our parents or older people do. By hugging, kissing, saying it, spending time with them.
Okay. Yeah. That's one. Andre said respect conversations. Communication, I'm sorry. Okay.
I think we should be able to voice it. I notice myself, I pay attention even to couples or whomever. I pay attention to how they talk to each other, their tone and the words they say and what they say and their expression. I look at people and see what they do. And I feel like I can tell a lot from that. And I think that should be shown.
Right.
This is Francis. Sometimes you can show it and you don't have to say anything. People pick up on the fact that you love each other.
That's true.
You can also show it by doing little things. It doesn't take a whole lot. It's just the little things that count.
That's true.
Mhm. Okay, love starts at home. You're correct, Andre. Love do start at home. You know, we've covered a lot about children, and there's a lot more to cover. There's another section that we haven't even gotten to tonight, and we better wrap this up. Glenda, do you want to push through real quick on the other part? You just want to do a part two, or you want to call it done? It's one and done. What do you want? What are we doing, Glenda?
The audience, if the audience feels like, they have gotten enough information tonight, we can move on to another topic. But if you want to continue to talk about this next week, we definitely can, because we have so much more to discuss.
And let me just.
Oh, Gigi says part 3.
Okay, yeah, because part 3 would be a recap of what we've done already, and then we'll talk about different parenting styles. We'll talk about negotiating family decisions, promoting healthy male development. Oh, we're talking about the men staying in their home with the mamas. That's what we're talking about. Oh yeah, I guess we need to put that off next week. That's a good idea. Them grown boys being home with mamas. And I'm not gonna say it this. I'll say it next week. I won't say it this week. I'll say it next week because I get in trouble if I say it. You guys be beating me up all week long.
Oh, goodness.
So I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna leave that one out. Glenda, I'm gonna turn it over to you. But before we turn it over to you, Glenda, guys, we got a lot of stuff coming between this week and next week. I know we talked about the cruise coming up. Our cruise coming up in 2025, and it's been brought to my attention that a few people on the line are know they're gonna go by themselves. They're not taking a spouse or boyfriend or family members. They're going by themselves, and they want to know, anybody want to pair up? Anybody that know that they're not going to take anybody, so they can pair up. Because everything is double occupancy. If you pay for a room by yourself, you mean you paying for 2 people in that room. But if you know you're not going to take anybody, then you can pair up. You can pair up with somebody else on the line here, and you guys can be 50-50 because they can separate the beds. The beds you don't have to sleep in one bed, so you don't worry about that kind of stuff. On a cruise, they know how to set it up. They can put as many as 4 beds in a room, but we're not talking about all that. But so if you want to partner with somebody, please put it in the chat. And Glenda, you going to take responsibility of that, or you may take responsibility of that?
I can take the names.
Okay. And we'll do it this week, and we'll do it next week, and we'll do it so that way you can partner up, because we're gonna do Sunday Night Live at sea, guys. We're gonna do it on the high sea. The boat gonna be rocking. You might be knocking, and we're gonna be talking.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, Sharon.
I'm not one that you be reading all that chat stuff. So what is the cruise going?
It's a 7-day or 5-day or 6-day Caribbean trip. We got a lot of ports we're going to. And as a matter of fact, I think we'll start sending out the flyers. We got a flyer, we got a film on it. We've got it already kind of knocked out a little bit. We'll send you. Wait a minute, we sent it already. You already got the
I just said I don't be reading that stuff. Man.
No, it's on your phone. We send it on your phone.
I don't be reading it.
Just touch it. It'll read itself. All you do is
she just automatically come on every Sunday night at 9.
That's all I do. That's it. Support my brother.
Yeah, just touch. We sent and we'll send the link out again. Touch the link. It tells you everything about it. It's fun. We're gonna be in the high seas, guys. We're gonna have a good time out there on the water. It's gonna be a carnival. I think Carnival Vista. We can be gone. We're coming out. We're sailing out of Orlando area. And we're going down, I think we end up in the Bahamas. I think we got about 3 or 4 different ports we're going to go to. The first night at sea at 10 o'clock on that Sunday night, we're going to have Sunday night at live. We got a special room set up. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be good. We're going to have a great time. So we want as many of you to go as possible. We're just going to have fun. We got 50 rooms blocked off for us. So we're ready. We're ready. All right. But Glenda, I'm turning it back over to you because we're about ready to cut it off. pregnant.
Okay, just want to, if you wasn't able, or if you didn't want to put your name in the chat for needing a partner for the cruise, you can also, I put our email address reset2hr@gmail.com. You can email, and I'll keep a list of individuals that need to be partnered up for the whole for the cruise, so they won't have to spend all that money. You can split it half and half. But I do want to say thank you everyone for joining us tonight. As always, it has been a pleasure. I know it is a huge sacrifice to stay up until 9, but we just love to see you guys every Sunday night. Just to summarize just a couple of points from tonight, we talked about the impact of parental relationships on children, strategies for introducing new partners in a way that considers children's emotions, balancing the child's viewpoint with adult discussion making, and modeling healthy relationship behaviors for our children. Now, we will have a part 3 next week. I hope you all can join us again. Please bring all your questions and concerns so we can talk about them. And thank you so much for the compliment, Andre. You know, I do once again want to say that, you know, when you send us suggestions for topics, you know, you are being heard, and we are doing our best to try to get the material together to have a open discussion about it. But I have nothing else to say. Mr. Carpenter, do you, before we sign off?
Next week, after we start opening to a national audience, because now we're growing. We're coming out of the beta testing, which you guys are all, everybody that's on now are considered founding members of Sunday Night at 9. But we're gonna, starting next week, we'll open it to the general public. You guys are always gonna be founding members, and we got something that we'll share with you next week, okay? Until then.
All right, good night.
Good
See you
night,
next
everybody.
week.
Good night. Good night.